Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we are going to start a new chapter, Atomic Structure of class 11th. It is unit 2. This chapter has a weightage of about 7 to 9 marks, and considering the fundamental part of chemistry, it is very important chapter because the upcoming chapters are based on the concepts which you will learn in this chapter. So far we have seen that matter is composed of very fundamental unit, and that unit was named as atom by Dalton. Few properties of atom was proposed by Dalton, and those were that it is the very tiniest unit and cannot be divided further. So he said that atom is an indivisible unit. Secondly, he said that atoms with same mass will be same atoms. And atoms which have different mass will be considered as different atoms, or vice versa you can say. But later on, as the more discovery, more experiments were done, it was found that atom is not the indivisible unit, it can be further divided. So the discovery of subatomic particles prove that atom is a divisible unit. So right now we are doing the failures basically of Dalton's atomic theory. Secondly, he said the same mass means it's the same atom. But then the concept came when different atoms also had the same mass. So different atoms having same mass, or you can say same atoms having different masses. With the concept of these two kind of nuclei, it was found that the Dalton atomic theory was not holding right. So when the atoms are different but masses are same, these are called as isobar pairs. Okay, when the atom is same but masses are different, it is called isotopes of an atom. Okay, so now we need to know how the subatomic particles that we know now as by the name of electron, proton and neutron, how they were discovered. We will do a very brief kind of experimental setup. So this is discovery of subatomic particles. The very first particle was discovered by J.J. Thomson, and the experiment that was performed is known by the name of cathode ray discharge tube experiment. So in this experiment, he took a glass tube, and this glass tube is basically evacuated glass tube. So evacuated means all the gases were taken out of it. So you can say it is basically a vacuum present in the glass, and within the glass he kept two plates, metal plates, and he connected those metal plates through an external circuit with a very high voltage supply. With a very high voltage we mean up to 10,000 volt of voltage was applied across these metal plates, such that this is a positively charged metal plate and this was a negatively charged metal plate, and this metal plate was named to be anode and this was a cathode. So when this experiment was set up, then on applying the high voltage, it was found that when a perforated anode was used, perforated means plate with the holes, like a mesh, and when the back side of this anode, there is a coating, kind of a paint was coated over the glass surface, and that paint was composed of a phosphor material of zinc sulfide. So you have to remember this, that it is a zinc sulfide coating. The property of zinc sulfide is it's a phosphor material. So phosphor materials are those whenever any light or high energy beam or high energy particle strikes such kind of a surface, they take that energy and they glow up. So if something is coming with high energy on the zinc sulfide coating, then this will show some kind of a spark or light. It will get illuminated. So you know that something is coming towards it. So anything which is coming towards anode from the cathode side. So cathode to anode. Cathode is a negatively charged, anode is a positively charged. So here we are using the very basic principle that like charges tend to repel each other and unlike charges tend to attract each other. So anything which is coming from cathode to anode has to be some negatively charged particle which is being repelled from cathode and going towards anode. And this particle was initially named to be cathode ray particle, and eventually it was named to be an electron. And it was found that electron is the very fundamental entity of every kind of metal that was used in the experiment. So this is a basic constituent of an atom irrespective of what atom or what metal plate you are using. So this way electron was discovered, and along with this the charge of electron and charge to mass of electron were calculated. And to calculate that, another setup was added within this tube when the electrons were passed through electric field as well as magnetic field. By applying external electric field and magnetic fields. So from there Thomson calculated the charge of electron to mass of electron value. And along with that other experiments were going on. So one of the very important experiment was done by Millikan, oil drop experiment. So from this experiment Millikan gave the charge of electron, and he gave this to be about 1.6 10 to power minus 19 coulomb. That one electron has this much charge. It is important that you remember these numbers. So Thomson knew the ratio of charge to mass, Millikan knew the charge of electron. From this they calculated mass of electron, and this came out to be 9.1 10 to power minus 31 kg. So it is very important that you learn these, remember these values, because there are many numericals or unit conversions that need these values. Then another experiment was done, similar kind of experiment by Goldstein, and this time instead of analyzing the radiations which were coming out of cathode ray, he made a similar setup but few differences in the experiment. So instead of going towards anode, now he is measuring what is coming towards cathode, and again to measure those radiations coming towards cathode he had to make this as a perforated sheet, something with a mesh, so that the particles whatever is coming towards the cathode can pass through it. And here again he coated the surface with the same phosphor material as zinc sulfide. This time he has not kept the tube evacuated, it is not vacuum. So he kept some gases but at a very low pressure. Low pressure we mean about 0.1 mm of Hg. So we know 760 mm of Hg is 1 atmosphere. So it is very low, but still some gases are present in it. So let us say some gas G, and low pressure means less number of gaseous molecules are present in it. So when high voltage is applied across these electrodes, then it was found that some positive rays were coming towards the cathode. And how? By illumination of zinc sulfide coating. So if something is coming out of anode towards the cathode, anode is positively charged, cathode is negatively charged, so something which is coming out of it has to be positive charge. So it was found that gases upon high voltage were converted into gaseous ions and electrons, and these electrons were moving towards anode and these cations were moving towards cathode. And for each gas, the kind of cation that was coming was a different one. Okay, then using the same setup by extending these radiations and passing them through external electric and magnetic field, their charge to mass ratio was calculated. And by knowing the total charge, it was found that when hydrogen was taken, the maximum charge to mass ratio was obtained. So that is the charge ratio of H positive to mass of H positive. So those radiations were named as protons. Moreover, in general, the radiations which were coming towards the cathode were named to be canal rays. So canal rays are generally used for all gaseous cations which were coming towards the cathode, and proton is used when hydrogen gas is filled within this glass tube. So proton is not used for every cation, it is for the hydrogen gas being filled. So whatever particles are coming towards cathode, those particles were named to be protons. And from here we know the charge of proton is positive, and here it was negative, and exactly opposite to the charge of electron. And the mass of proton was much higher than mass of electron, and it was found to be 1.67 10 to power minus 27 kgs. So you will see the order of difference is around 2000. So this is much heavier as compared to mass of electron. Now atom being a neutral entity, so we know that the number of electrons and number of protons within an atom will be same. That will tend to balance the charge in an atom. But then the masses of electron and proton were not adding up to give the mass of atom being observed. So there has to be some third entity which do not contribute to the mass charge of the atom, but it does contribute to the mass of an atom. And that third entity was named to be neutron. But this discovery of neutron was done at a much later stage. So far, it is just known to be electron and proton present in an atom. And that neutron was discovered by Chadwick. So now we know that atom can be divided and it has electrons, protons. So far we just know that it has electron and protons. So these electrons and protons have to be arranged in some manner within an atom, and that gives different models for an atomic structure. So now we are doing models. The very first model was suggested by Thomson, and he said that atom is a positively charged sphere and the electrons are randomly distributed or embedded within the positively charged sphere, and the number of electrons and protons are same. So there is a uniform distribution of the charge. Okay. So this kind of a model is similar to a watermelon, where the red part of it are the protons and seed is considered to be like electrons. That kind of a distribution was imagined, and this is also called plum pudding model. So plum part is the electron part and pudding part is the proton part. So if this is the true structure of an atom, then another experiment which was designed to see if this is the true structure was done by Rutherford. And he designed an experiment which is called Rutherford's gold foil experiment. So far we know, if Thomson's model is correct and there is a uniform distribution of positive charge within an atom, then whenever this atom being hit by any other positively charged ion, then as it approaches it will get diverted. And the principle was that like charges repel each other. So the positive particle will be repelled by it, it will divert its path, and we can see the path or the position it hits. Again we are using the same shield or the same screen, you can say phosphor screen of zinc sulfide. So that's why I was saying it is important, as well as one of the very basic constituent of all the experiments that we have read so far. So wherever it will hit, it will start to illuminate. So according to this, if this is the true structure, we should not get any spark over here, only at the edges where the diverted positively particle is going, we will get the illumination on the screen. But this was not the observation. The observations were much different. So he designed this kind of experiment because he took a positively charged atom, and this atom was that of a helium. So he took helium 2 positive. So helium has a 2 positive charge and its mass is 4, and this is called an alpha particle. So charge of alpha particle is that of twice of proton. So with this particular positive charge, he took another atom, you can say a target atom of gold, Au, and these two were selected because it was known that gold is a much bigger in size as an atom as compared to helium. So the size difference was quite huge. So when a radiation of alpha particle that contains many alpha particles, they tend to hit all together a single gold, it was found that many radiations passed through. And how this was observed? Again on a zinc sulfide screen. It is a phosphor material. So wherever the particle will hit, it will illuminate. So these particles showed that there was an illumination. So positive being not repelled at all, they passed through here as well as here. So it was concluded that majority of the region or majority of the space is vacant. In an atom. Then very few particles, they diverted from their path. So they will show illumination over here, and this showed illumination over here. And this, as I said, like charges will tend to repel, so there has to be something positive over here which is repelling these positively charged particles. So it means that positive charge is not scattered everywhere like it was proposed. So positive charge is concentrated in small volume within an atom, or you can say the volume of positive charge is much smaller than the total volume of atom. And very few particles, 1 in 20,000, they reverted back, they came back. So It means very few number of positively charged, they felt very high repulsion due to this. And since alpha particle being small, big charge has a high charge density. So anything which is repelling with such a great force has to have a high charge density. So you can say there is in an atom there is a very small space which has a high positive charge density. Charge density means the charge per unit volume. So total charge is concentrated in very small space. That's why it is causing such a high repulsion that it can push back the alpha particles. And this region was later on named to be as nucleus by Rutherford. So nucleus is basically consisting of the whole positive charge of an atom, and electrons are around the nucleus. So he proposed a kind of system which was similar to the solar system that was already known at that time, and he said the atom has the same structure as that of a solar system, where sun is at the center and atom nucleus is at the center. So like this. And since these two are oppositely charged particles, electron cannot stay stationary. It has to move around the positive so that the direct Coulombic interaction are reduced. But so here he gave the concept of electron in motion around nucleus. But then there was a very well known and verified theory of Maxwell, and he said that any charged particle, when accelerated in circular motion, it will tend to emit radiations. So emitting radiation means losing energy. If something is losing energy, it will tend to slow down. So electron is basically slowing down with time, and eventually it will fall into nucleus. So atom will vanish. But the fact was atom is a stable entity, it doesn't vanish as such. So here the centripetal force of a moving electron is not balancing the Coulombic interactions. There has to be something different which can explain the stability of an atom. But the important discoveries of subatomic particles, nucleus, and overall structure of an atom was given. Now the question was how these atomic structures are stable. So for this, next model will come up. But before the next model comes up, there were other theories which were going on, and those theories help to understand an atom, its properties, and various experiments which support the next atomic structure given by Bohr. So before doing Bohr, we will do some of the experiments which were going in background to understand or give a better atomic structure as compared to Rutherford. So Rutherford, basically the limitation was it was not in line with the Maxwell theory of these charges being emitting radiations. Later on you will see the radiations these are emitting are called electromagnetic radiations. So we will read about it. There are some questions you can attempt at the end of this lecture. So do attempt it to understand more about the chapter. Thank you very much. Do subscribe and get an update for the next upcoming video. Thank you.